If you're doing something every day that's not aligned with where you're going, remove it. We have the ability to shape our world. And so often we just refuse to do that.
Has there been a pivotal moment in your life?
The problems have always felt so big and the solutions always ended up being so small. Like something as simple as like migraines, it's just suffering and just getting CAT scans and seeing doctors and all this stuff. And it's like, you think the cure has to be as intense as the problem. I mean, there are days where I'd wake up, couldn't open my eyes, and it's a good metaphor for so many of our issues, and in terms of, when things aren't right and we know, instead of conceding and saying, no, this is life, I have to live this way. If someone's not making you happier, cut them off. If they're not adding to your life, remove them. If you're doing something every day that's not aligned with where you're going, remove it. We have the ability to shape our world. And so often we just refuse to do that. So yeah, in terms of relationships, in terms of, moving, like packing up and moving a year ago was a big thing, certain changes to content creation, what I'm putting out there, lots of different things. But the solution is usually easy, simple, and in the room with you is what I continue to find.
Today, I'm sitting with my friend, Eddie Pinero. I think our paths have crossed multiple times, and he's in Genius Network with me. And I started following him on social media because I think the whole world follows him on social media before I met him. He's the founder of Your World Within, which he founded 10 years ago today. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And he is just one of the most profound motivational speakers and leaders globally. And he's an international speaker. And with his YouTube channel, his short form content, and with speaking worldwide, he just really wants to inspire and manages to actually inspire people to live out their best lives, which is something that's super close to home for me. So I'm really excited to have you here today, and I can't wait to chat with you.
Thanks, Hannah. Grateful. And yeah, I think the world of you. And it's crazy how many times our paths have crossed. I haven't been here that long. I've been in Scottsdale for a little less than a year. And yeah, I've seen you all over the place. So it's cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Likewise. I know. I was so excited. I saw you in Genius. I was like, oh, I messaged you on Instagram.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Well, cool. So you've had 200 million streams on your content online. How do you do that?
How does that happen?
How does that hahappen?
Yeah.
How'd you get started? What's your story? And
Slowly and methodically. It's a funny thing because, you tend to think of, and it makes sense rationally to think of goal and then execution. And so, but for me, it was a long process of like really kind of figuring myself out, and being in the corporate world and realizing like, hey, this is great for some people, but like as a creative, it just wasn't my jam. And, left that space and was doing singer-songwriter stuff around Boston, playing acoustic shows, producing friends, taking the camera out, making little movies, doing creative writing, and just kind of like little by little eliminating the things that I didn't like and gravitating towards the stuff that I did. And so, the thing about a job is, the upside tends to not be that high, but it's safe, obviously. And so that was the first time in my life when I left that I didn't have that safety net. And Your World Within came to be when, I was starting to feel that pressure. And it, the entrepreneur or creator thing went from, being cool to some guy in his mid-20s in his boxer starting to sweat, sitting at the table writing, it's like, oh God, this is not cool anymore. And I just wrote this speech called Ode to Excellence that was literally just a promise to myself. It was, hey, you've never had the courage to really put your back against the wall. And I think if you did that, you'd figure it out. And, will you? That's the question. And it was sort of like an ode to myself, a promise to myself. And it combined a lot of what I loved, music, editing, writing a speech, telling a story, getting emotive with the message. Loved making it, and I released it and just started getting all this great feedback. Hey, I've been there. Hey, this is beautiful. This helped me. Or I'm stuck, or I'm lost, or, this really gave me perspective. And it's that intersection of like, I love it and it helps the world we're in, right? That there's something there. That's where we're going. It was like a light bulb moment, But it's funny because you don't, like I didn't set out to do this when I was 12 or 13, I didn't even know. Like there were times where I was making videos or doing things and it's like, you don't even know why or what it's gonna become. It just feels right. So there's a lot of like gut instinct attached to it.
Yeah. And is that still do you do that speech live when you speak?
Um, I talk about it. I don't do it like verbatim, but
Mm.
it's actually kind of a funny story. So I went through this chapter where I wanted to like really go off the deep end and be creative, and I started doing this spoken word stuff, and it's almost like rap, like the way the words come together. And this company hired me to speak, just great people, but caught me off guard. I'm thinking, I got my keynote presentations. I'm like, okay, which one's more relatable? How do we? And the CEO is like, we listen to this video every day or every week before our team meeting. Will you perform this? And it was like this spoken word, like almost like a hip hop. I'll show you sometime. It's pretty funny, almost like a hip hop thing.
Yeah.
And so I found myself at this like team meeting with a mic, just like it felt like emceeing. It was so funny. But yeah, it's taken me all over the place, just different styles, different ways to get the message across. And it's been fun.
That's so awesome, and I love, I've motivational speaking like yourself and motivational content has been my lifeline. I actually have a highlight on my motivational things. Every time I see something I like, I post it on there
Love it.
because it's it's always been there for me. And there's been so many times throughout my life where I wanted to quit and I wanted to give up, and times I even wanted to die. And that was, I didn't have necessarily the community or the connection or the
Mhm.
relationships or friendships or employees or anything like I do now. And I was really alone. And that was my lifeline, exactly what you do. And I guess, like, what is your creative process to even come up with this absolutely beautiful art that you come up with? Is this just a gift to you, or do you have this creative process that helps it come out of you?
I've honed it for a lot of years, but to your point, because I think you touched on something beautiful. Like when you're building something, like being alone, feeling alone is the most challenging part. It's like you can feel even more alone than you are. Like your brain starts playing the little small violin, the sob stories. One of the reasons I moved here is because I was living in Florida, and I have some great friends in Florida. It was, but coming here once a quarter and just the people in the community. And it's when you're around that, you just feel better. You feel more inspired. And yeah, that was one. It was like a year. I love telling this story because it was such a pivotal time for me. So, you mentioned 10 years I've been doing this. It was year 7 where I hit that exponential growth, that sort of hockey stick growth with views and finances and all these things that allow me to blow up the company and hire a team and do all these things. That's a long time. And it's a lot of days of waking up and looking around and feeling insufficient and not enough and like no one cares and you're on this pursuit by yourself. Um, Even though, I had family and friends, but it's like it's like this irrational bubble you put yourself in. You feel like a loser. And I like telling people that that's when you feel like that and you're doing something important, it doesn't negate what you're doing. It's not a referendum on you. A lot of times it's just the cost, as I'm sure you know, right? You have to sort of hit your head against that wall endlessly until it clicks. And when it clicks, it really clicks. So I thought that was a good sort of segue to remind people to sort of hang in there, when they're sort of on that mission. Um, but my creative process, to answer your question, is sort of documenting those highs and lows. A lot of like my friend Evan told me, your purpose comes from your pain, and I truly believe that. And along the way, there were a lot of really low lows, and instead of dwelling in it, it's like, no, dude, capture it, understand it, and then go tell that story and give that to people. Uh, because it doesn't matter if you're a creative or an entrepreneur or a single mother or an athlete or a student. It doesn't matter the context, everyone deals with it. And if you can paint that picture, say, hey, look, I'm feeling down or I got my ass kicked or this didn't work, but here's the value. I think that's what the world needs
Mhm.
because it goes back to that loneliness thing. You're alone, but you're not. We're all alone together,
Right.
like it's like we got this. And yeah, in doing so in a way that's emotively captivating and moving. We're not practical creatures. We don't want a list of what to do. for us to move, we got to feel it. We got to
Mhm.
feel that it's right. And that's, I've always just wanted to sort of paint that picture for people.
Yeah. And with your creative process, are you writing first and you just sit down and you start to write your thoughts and your experiences and things like that, and then you put it into speech? Or do you have a team behind you that really helps you with content ideas and things like that? Or is it more of like a natural flow? What does that kind of look like?
Eventually, I hired some video editors, but the rest I like to do still. I let the music drive the speech. So
Mm.
what I do is like I have Evernote, and as I'm just living my life, I'll capture things and write things down and different stories, different metaphors that I want to write about. And based on the topic, is this kind of a sit down, story time conversation, or is this like a in your face, upbeat, intense conversation, right? And so I'll know the theme, I'll get the music, which now I don't write myself anymore. I license, and so um, I'll get the music that matches the style. I'll loop the music, and while the music's in my headphones, be writing the speech, and that allows the words to match the feel, which I think is
Mm.
arguably the most important piece.
Yeah.
And then once I have that audio file, now I give it to my editor, Hader, who's awesome.
And then you have the visuals, which is a big component of what you do as well, right? In your videos.
Yeah, yeah. Got a camera in front of my face, and then inject a lot of B-roll, and um, working to make it a little more. It's fun, like because there's always like little creative twists and turns you can do, And so I'm looking to get the camera in front of my face when I'm driving or working out or hanging out with friends and doing some of this stuff. So instead of using stock footage, I can start putting this stuff in. But I'm a private person. Like I don't know if you deal with that. Like you're so incentivized. We're so rewarded even by being transparent in putting more of ourselves out. And so part of me is like, if you want to win, you got to suck it up and do it. Like that's just the cost of admission. But the introvert in me, I'm like, I don't want a camera around everywhere I go. So I'm trying to balance that, and have this sort of library of media, of personal media, and do it in a way that allows me to sort of live my life.
Yeah, I noticed that when I first had lunch with you. I could tell that you're definitely an introvert, more type,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Hey everyone, how's it going?
Yeah,
I'm Hannah.
the
Let's get
social
on."
butterfly. Yeah, exactly.
But so is that difficult for you to be vulnerable and raw on what you put out, or have you learned to express yourself? And how do you process the feedback that you get? Do you even get negative feedback on your stuff?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah. Well, I was actually talking yesterday about like the negativity bias, right? You can get
Mhm.
100 people saying like the kindest thing, and you'll have one guy being like, he sucks. And like, that's what your eyes go right
Yeah.
to that. You're like,
Yeah.
but I do think that it through repetition, I've gotten a little bit stronger with being vulnerable. And I mean, that's what people want, that if you're guarded, I think people feel that. And so when you open that door and you let the authenticity through and you're real in what you experience, um, people appreciate it. And it's hard, to your point, it's taken years to sort of get a little bit better and a little bit better. And I still have a long way to go, by the way. But night and day to 10 years ago. And then the I think it's a skill is to, no matter what you do, be able to release it to the world, feel confident in it, have conviction in it, and then detach from the outcome. You're not looking at it constantly. You're not worried about what people are saying. You're not looking at the views, at least not immediately. If you want to do it like, every X number of days or weeks for data or feedback, but fine. But you're detaching from the result. Like the fact that it meant something to you when you needed to get it out to the world is enough.
Mhm.
And I think when you get to that place, there's a calm that, occurs.
Yeah. And so you talk about how one decision can change your life forever.
Mm.
And has there been a pivotal moment in your life where you made a decision that changed the trajectory of your life?
There has. Yeah, and it's funny because the problems have always felt so big, and the solutions always ended up being so small. I was talking about in a speech the other day, like something as simple as like migraines, which I know is not what you're getting at, but like, it's just suffering and just getting CAT scans and seeing doctors and all this stuff. And it's like, you think the cure has to be as intense as the problem. I mean, there are days where I'd
Mhm.
wake up, couldn't open my eyes,
Wow.
and I'm a runner and I'd be running 8 miles in Miami in the afternoon. And it's an electrolyte deficiency. So I started taking electrolyte tablets twice a day and like magic, just gone,
Mhm.
and it's a good metaphor for so many of our issues. And in terms of, when things aren't right and we know, instead of conceding and saying, no, this is life, I have to live this way. If someone's not making you happier, cut them off. If they're not adding to your life, remove them. If you're doing something every day that's not aligned with where you're going, remove it. We have the ability to shape our world. And so often we just refuse to do that. Not even intentionally. It's like we don't even think about it. We just think life as is how it has to be. So yeah, in terms of relationships, in terms of, moving, like packing up and moving a year ago was a big thing. Certain changes to content creation, what I'm putting out there, lots of different things. But the solution is usually easy, simple, and in the room with you, is what I continue to find.
Yeah. And how do you stay motivated? Like, do you use your own stuff to motivate you ultimately, or
Oh God, no, I can no, no way. Um,
like, yeah, right? How do you motivate the motivator? How do you coach the coach?
yeah, well, it's an important question, and it's why I think more than anything, I place so much emphasis on feeling aligned and inspired. Like, if I am not excited to jump out of bed in the morning, how am I going to grab a mic and try and help other people make the money?
Mhm.
Right. So it's like when something's not right, like I was just saying, it's like you got to fix it immediately. Um, but I think that's what it is. It's gravitating towards things and people that light me up and never staying stagnant. And when you feel stagnant, go on an adventure, go do something, go create momentum somehow, and it's like that's just been a big thing. Like sometimes it's the lessons that I learn, sometimes it's through music, sometimes it's through movies, sometimes it's through an experience. So there's a lot of different ways, but at the end of the day, it's understanding that, we create momentum in our own lives. And the second you're like stagnant, feel like life is a little mundane, that's on you,
Mhm.
right? Figure it out. Breathe some life into things, because we're capable of that.
Yeah. And what have been the top 3 things that have helped you stay relentless and keep going? I mean, 7 years. So it took 7 years before you really started to see traction and a real good income from your business, it sounds like. And how did you stay motivated through that process? Because that's a long time. I mean, I don't think I could do 7 years if I didn't make a serious
Yeah.
growth from it.
I was always, it's one of the funniest things. I was at Evan Carmichael's mastermind, and
Yeah.
I might have told you this. I was doing like an overview on YouTube and talking about just YouTube stuff, boring stuff, watch time, thumbnails,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I have this chart where it's like, growing, but nothing substantial till year 7. Then you get that spike. And I open it up for questions, and I'm thinking everyone's going to want to hear about the ins and outs of the details. And people are just like, how did you not quit year 1 through 7? Um, and I mean, it was a few things, right? It was almost paying my dues. It was perfecting a craft, speech writing, storytelling, captivating. I think I needed to go through it. It's not like it was a complete failure. Like I was growing. I think I had like 100,000 subs or something like that. That's like I
Yeah.
could I could live. And every time finances would get scary, luckily someone would be like, "Hey, I need a series of videos." Like at the
Mhm.
time, like that was something I did to like make ends meet.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it was, "Hey, the door's shut. I'm either going to do very well with this or be broke doing this, but I'm doing this." And I think that is the singular most important thing. Because if there were off ramps, I would have taken them. I can't tell you how many mornings, you know, the day after I wrote this speech or made this video that I thought was going to be transformative and I put it out there and crickets, right? And
Mm.
you're just devastated at the time. If there was an enticing, shiny object always there, I would have taken it. But it's like, no, that door's shut. okay, yesterday things didn't go the way you wanted to. Pick yourself up, on to the next.
Yeah.
It's a good mentality.
And so it sounds like you were more purpose driven from the beginning versus money driven, or am I incorrect on that?
100% correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I find that for in my world, money has been a lagging indicator, meaning like anytime I follow my creativity and stay true to myself and do stuff that I feel like I would need, the results are better, the impact is better, the money that comes with it is better, more speaking engagement, all that stuff, right? Whereas you know how the internet is. It's like
Mhm.
you can get rich with this and sell this course and use this webinar and every once in a while you fold and you go, should I do that? Maybe I should do. And I always have to reel myself back. It's always the wrong move. Um, so yeah, 100% mission based. And I think when you do that, one, you're creating longevity. You're creating a foundation that you can stand on forever. You can't stand on a webinar forever,
Yeah.
right? But also when you stay true to yourself, people feel it, they share it, and they want to be a part of it.
Yeah. Shiny object syndrome, women in the red dress syndrome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Always hard for me. I'm a visionary through and through, a creator through and through. And definitely it's hard for me to just get clarity on my mission and my focus and what I'm doing. And I truly honor you for being able to stay so focused, and you're so niched down to something that you've just absolutely mastered. And I think it's absolutely incredible.
I appreciate
So,
that.
of
It's
course.
funny. It's like one of these lessons you don't learn it once. Like
Mhm.
you learn it over and over and over again. As I'm sure the farther you've come and um, the bigger your platform is, the more opportunities you get. And so it's still shiny object syndrome. It just looks different.
Yeah.
It might be a successful entrepreneur asking you to join something or something, and you go, yeah, well, yeah, I want to be a part of whatever you're doing, right? And then you go, oh, this isn't align. This isn't aligned with who I am,
Mhm.
So yeah, I think having that awareness is huge.
Did you have a rock bottom moment in your life ever that turned you on to the motivational speaking and creativity?
It wasn't like, um, for example, when I listened to your podcast the other day with Clayton and you talked about the box of pictures, like something that was just like, boom.
Mm.
It was more like being aware and philosophizing about the highs and lows. I think I learned in college through crew of all things. I was a D1 rower. Is when I learned to suffer. Like I learned the value of suffering, and also I learned that you can suffer and still not win, which was it was just a crazy thing at the
Yeah.
time. And so I took that into the real world, and there's suffering in art, and there's suffering in storytelling, and there's suffering in creativity. And when you step back and observe it, there's beauty that comes from that. And so I just liked documenting the story. And then the documentation became the story. It was just like, I don't know. It was just, I wanted to capture the roller coaster that is building something significant, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. I know I heard someone say that they were always upset about the challenges and the suffering and the losses that came in life, and they'd always be like, "When can I just get on with my life?" And then you realize that is your life.
This is
Like,
it.
this is
Yeah.
it. That's what life is. It's like a heartbeat. It's peaks and it's valleys, and if you
Yeah.
flatline, you're dead. And
Yeah.
and learning to embrace the peaks and the valleys and understanding, like, not trying to race through them and get on with it or get past it, and just really like, here's where we're at, and we're here and we're going through it and trying to either win or learn
Mm.
and move forward. So
Amen. Yeah. There was a moment, speaking of like low points, this is in a way was a turning point. There's just such an irony to it. It made me feel human and it made me understand sort of the authenticity, the value of authenticity. Um, but it was 2017. I just moved from Boston to Florida. And I remember so this is so funny. I went with some friends to the desert to shoot this big thing, this big production, and spent a couple $1,000, which for me was like at the time was just insane.
yeah.
And released it and thought it was game changing, and it just wasn't. And, I'm watching my buddies from college just do well in all their pursuits, or that's how it feels anyway. And you're just looking around you and I'm like, I'm not 21 anymore. Can I afford to be doing this? And I'm like, I just need a break. And I went out with some buddies and just got hammered in Miami. And I remember coming back to my apartment, going to sleep, being so hungover the next day. And I get this email from this guy, and he's like, love your videos. They've helped me a lot. And I have a camera crew, and I'd love to spend 3 days with you so I can show the world what it's like to be disciplined and, reach your full potential. And I'm sitting there like throwing up. There's like beer cans on the floor. I'm like, this is, God. But it just goes to like the sort of real element of, ups and downs,
Don't judge the message by the messenger.
Yeah. I'm delivering this, sir. This is not me. But you can't be perfect,
Yeah.
You can't, and you shouldn't be. That's not life.
I'm picturing you and their head in a bucket right now. And,
Yeah, I'm like, this is like a Seinfeld skit. Like, you've got to be kidding
Yeah.
me,
So did you do it?
No, I was not in a place to do it. It was a pretty low point. It was actually had a happy ending though. I reconnected with one of my old friends at the time, and this guy is my best friend now. Like, we talk all the time, and we've shot videos together and stuff. But he would call me, and he would be like, "You're changing the world." He'd call me on a Tuesday and be like, "What are you doing?" And I'd be like, "Just writing or thinking." And he'd be like, "Just reminding you that what you're doing is changing lives, and you're going to be huge someday." It just said for no reason. And yeah, like things like that really mattered, and got me through some of those low points. And also they make you, the law of reciprocity, they make you want to be that for other people. But yeah, so when I think of the hangover, that hangover morning, closely associated with my buddy sort of reconnecting and helping me out of that situation for sure.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Does he live here now or still?
He lives in North Carolina.
Okay.
So yeah, when I was in Florida, it was a lot easier for us to jump around and shoot at different locations, but still every once in a while.
Yeah. And so I know for me personally, I struggled a lot with self-worth and insecurity, and still do, but I'm coming a long way working on that a lot. Finally starting to love myself truly and having that compassion for myself. But still with that, and I think just part of who I am, I've been always a people pleaser. Like, I found my self-worth and my identity in what I produce for other people, or what I guess the validation from other people. And I still to this day, I love serving people. I could never screw somebody over because my validation comes in making people happy. Do you have like a strong desire? It sounds like what you do. I mean, with motivational speaking, like, do you get that dopamine rush from the service of other people and knowing that you are helping people and helping save lives and change the world more so than some other things that some people may get?
I think so. I think the impact is it's been a driver the entirety of the journey. One of the things about online is, and this is not, necessarily a bad thing if you can find a way to parse it out, but the numbers and clicks and views and watch time, those are people, like they're human beings. And as an entrepreneur, there are times where you have to look at it as numbers. I mean, it's just, let's be pragmatic. If you are not, or the data's declining, or you're not paying, like, you can't win. And being able to serve as many people, help as many people as possible is winning. So there is that sort of competitive, like, hey, we need to get this out to the world. But then, when you get an email from somebody that's, "Ed, I was at the lowest point of my life and listen to one of your videos." Or you get a DM that's like, "I'm going through a divorce," or whatever it is, makes it real, and that's, to me, that's what it's all about.
I guess that's perfect for, how in a world that's so flooded with content, how do you produce content that is truly impactful and not just more noise, because there's so much noise out there. And you think the key to that is just the authenticity and pulling your personal life and personal stories into that, or
I think the truth lives in a gray area. Like the beauty of the information age is like there's a blueprint for everything.
Mhm.
I mean, you can look up, who's winning and what and why. And I'd never advocate ignorance. Alex Hormozy's crushing it. It makes sense as an online creator to maybe understand why.
Mhm.
But I think where you lose is if you go, okay, I'm going to emulate Alex Hormozy. It's
Mhm.
like, no, take his a pillar or two that you resonate with, but you have to inject yourself into it. If you don't, one, you'll quit because you won't be excited about it. It won't be you. And two, the audience will know
Yeah.
100%. They'll see right through that. You're just another, uh, I don't know, whatever you want to say, B
Fake.
level Alex
Yeah.
Hormozy.
Right.
So yeah, I think there's a sort of a combination that
Yeah.
exists.
So you've almost 1 million subscribers on YouTube, which is insane. That's amazing. And and obviously there's so much content creation out there. It's like everybody has a podcast now. Everybody's filming videos. Everybody's doing everything. Everybody's writing books and everybody's trying to speak and those types of things. But what have been like some of your biggest attributes or maybe more tactical things
Mm.
to actually growing a YouTube audience for you?
I think one, it's gonna sound pretentious, but I think you'll get it. Is like get good at what you do.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying I'm God's gift to humanity. I'm saying I spent 7 years writing 5 to 10-minute speeches. I doubt there's many people out there that can do that in this space um, at the same level, at the same clip that I can. And so when I look at that time, it's precious because I honed a craft. And so what I advocate is getting good at what you do. Podcasts are a vehicle,
Mhm.
YouTube is a vehicle. Social media is a vehicle. If you think that's the end in and of itself, that's like an empty Amazon truck. What are you delivering? Right? You crush it in the real estate space. This podcast is a platform for you to talk about that and also give people, a view into you and the person you are. That's the model, as opposed to like thinking you can just flip on a mic and that's that. It's like, what are you delivering? Really think about what your audience needs and how you're providing that. And I think, that's what a lot of people miss. So
Yeah.
tactically, yeah, like picking a niche or understanding where you want to go, being good at that. And then depending on what that is, repetition, understanding which platforms are best conducive to your skill set. There's some people that are amazing on Twitter because they're quick-witted. Everyone's dunking on each other. And it's like, that's their field. If you put them on a long form podcast setting, it's like a fish out of water. And that's
Mhm.
fine. You don't need to be a good podcaster. Crush it on Twitter or X. If you like being in front of the camera and you're good that way, do that. Don't feel the need to be everywhere. So I think it's just really understanding what you're good at, what you want to deliver, and really understanding yourself and the best way to bring that to life.
Yeah. And then what about, you mentioned the metrics and the clicks. How do those play into, like, I have a friend who has a few million followers on YouTube, and he's told me that the algorithm, it's all about the algorithm and the title and the first
Yeah.
30 seconds and the changing the frame and all of these things. Are those super important in how you structure your videos as well, paired with a good product and craft, or do you just kind of put together a good product?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, a really good lesson I learned. So when the channel blew up, same guy, Evan was my coach at the time, and I was very stubborn.
Carmichael?
Yeah,
Oh, I gotta get into is he accepting new people in his mastermind?
I'm sure he is.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
yeah.
he's so
Give him a
good.
shout. He's
Yeah.
great.
I just saw him 2 days ago.
Oh, that's right. He was at the. I will never forgive myself for missing
You're
Saturdays.
stupid.
Oh God, it hurts my soul. Yeah, that was an amazing
Yeah.
lineup.
It was
Um,
really good.
But yeah, that's what changed the trajectory of what I was doing because I was very stubborn. 3 minutes. It's gonna emulate a song. My titles were like dance before the music plays. There's these
Mhm.
artsy things that YouTube has no idea what the hell it is because it can't index it.
Yeah.
Right? People, no one searches for that.
Yeah.
And so Evan's like, look, and I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, you can have the best content in the world. If it sits at the bottom of YouTube somewhere, you're not gonna be able to help anyone. You're gonna have to make some concessions. And so change the titles. Very specific. Listen to this when, or morning motivation, things like that, that YouTube goes, okay, this is a motivational video. I'm going to take it and I'm going to bucket it with other motivational videos and start recommending it, right? Watch time. It's like 3 minutes. Eddie, YouTube values longer videos. So you're hurting yourself. So it was a couple things, like adjusted and pivoted a little bit to tell a story in 8 minutes. And then, I have thousands of speeches now. After that, stack 4 old ones behind it. 85% of people that watch every video have no idea who I am and have never seen me before. It's not like people are going to get angry. But as a creator, you're in your head, you're like, my audience is going to get mad. Maybe they've seen this video, but you know how that goes, right? So I extended the video length. I started using thumbnails that were less artsy, whimsical, cryptic, an emotive face, right? Very basic things, and then straight up. So I do think like you have to play smart, but it's like what I was saying before, that gray space, but you have to do it in a way that allows you to stay integral to your message and your style and that type of thing.
Yeah, keep it authentic to you. Still understand the rules and the things that are going to help you and play. Because at the end of the day, there are algorithms, and if nobody's searching for dancing in the rain, but they're searching
Right.
for how do I not jump off a bridge today?
Exactly.
So
Very, very direct.
It's not as elegant, but
Yeah, when you put it that way, it's like I'm swimming upstream here. Why? Yeah.
So we just had an election. And I know there's been a lot of there's a lot of negativity in the world in general, and the media creates a lot of, let's just say, only talks about the negativity, doesn't exactly shine on the good things that are happening in the world. And then with all the political charge of Trump and Kamala and Republican or Democrat or just all of these things going on, I know I've personally ran into a lot of people who are very beaten down right now, and they're very exhausted and they're very triggered. What are some mindset shifts that people can make to stay positive and united in an environment like this that is so triggering and politically charged?
What a cool question. I think, like, at a basic level, understanding why in that we are incentive-based creatures. So like, the media, for example, is 100% incentivized to have you worked up and angry and fearful. Thinking the other side is the enemy. I mean, that's how you tune in, right? Politicians, when they create their coalitions, 100% incentivized to say, hey, this group over here and this group over here are against you. I'm not, I'm for you. So they're the bad guys, we're the good, right? And so like you start understanding that so much of this stuff is just manufactured. Besides the fact that some of these narratives are just straight up BS, but I think, we have so much in common with each other that I just think it's overshadowed by, some of this. Let me put it this way. I'm right of center. I have a lot of left-leaning friends. And I'm one of these people that, like, I don't take it personally. I don't care. I know they're well-intentioned. I know they want the best for themselves and their family and the country. We just see things differently.
Yeah.
And that's a level of maturity that I think is required. And it'd be wrong to say we were always like that, but I think obviously it's gotten worse. So I think the first thing you can do is just understand that. Like, there's no reason to create this fake you versus me, Red Sox versus Yankees stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think the emotional intelligence. I was having this conversation at a conference in Vegas yesterday, and he was a Democrat, far left, and anyway, we had opposing views on that on politics. I'm the same as you. A little bit more on the conservative side, but it was interesting to see because I took his charge from like up here to totally fine in a matter of about 5 minutes. And he was like, how did you do that? Like, you need to be a politician. I'm like, yeah, no, I would never be a politician. But it's just the understanding of, like, we're all in this together. Yeah. And the more uncertainty that we have and the more conflict that we have and the less unity that we have, the more war we have, and we don't have peace. And like, what is the purpose of anything in life other than peace and happiness and fulfillment and freedom? And so I think it's just really important, like you said, for people to just have that level of maturity and emotional intelligence. And I don't know, do you advise people stay away from the news and the media and just kind of focus more on their lives? Or do you think just be mature enough and emotionally intelligent enough to be able to know what's going on, but not let it negatively affect your decision making?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I've struggled with this because it's a distraction, right?
Yeah.
So, like, 100%. I studied politics in college and just very much enjoy it and love it, right? So, like, I'm on X a lot, and I do think my day is better and more productive when I just say, "Hey, we're not even looking at that,"
Hmm.
right? Like today with all the appointments, I'm like checking it. It's like, you know, but one thing that I do that I think is pretty cool is you can cultivate a list of people on X you can follow. And, I'm human. A lot of it's people that think like me, but I
Hmm.
include in that list people that I totally disagree with, at the very least to understand what they're saying. And I think that like the danger is the echo chamber, right? The danger is like people completely unaware of reality, charged up, listening to this figurehead, thinking, for example, like women's rights are gone.
Yeah.
It's like it's just not conducive to reality or what's happening.
Hmm.
So I think you can do yourself a favor and at least even if you have to grit your teeth and listen to someone you don't like for 10 minutes, understand where they're coming from, understand a different point of view. Because again, a lot of these people talking are incentivized to piss you off and hate the other side. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I think that's really good advice. I noticed, I actually noticed myself get a little triggered and charged. I was at a tech conference and there was someone like bashing the conservative side and stuff like that. And I started to feel like that anxiety kind of build
Mm,
up inside my gut. And now I'm such more of a present person. I realize that. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Why am I getting charged right now?
yeah.
And where is that coming from? And is this a valid feeling or is this just bias? Things like that. But um, it's, shoot, what was I going to say?
It's that self-awareness though.
Yeah, that self-awareness. And that's what Gabor Mate says is the responsibility is, he said, in between a stimulus and a response, there's a gap. And in that gap lies our freedom. And
That's powerful. It's
yeah,
really cool.
yeah. Um, and so many people, they get a trigger and they respond.
Yeah.
And so he says that that's no responsibility and that's slavery. Ultimately, you're a slave to your own mind.
Emotions.
And so being able to slow down, yeah, to your own emotions, and being able to slow down, realize when you get a stimulus or a trigger, someone says something, someone does something, somebody takes something or steals something or hurts you or whatever, is being able to recognize that gap before you respond and fully have control over your response. And those are like I guess the most free people.
Yeah. It takes a lot of discipline, and
Yeah.
it's not even like when someone's saying, like philosophizing about or discussing a different point of view. It's when a different point of view is said with conviction, like it's 100% the truth. And to not think that is crazy, and there's this tonality that's sort of condescending. That's when I'm like, but yeah, to your point, it's like,
Mhm.
let it go, breathe, breathe.
Yeah.
you know,
Because at the end of the day, it just hurts you more than anybody.
yeah, you look like a fool reacting.
Hmm.
It's like on the football field. It's never the person that's shoved first that gets the flag. It's the one who hits back. You know what I mean? It's the
Yeah.
retaliator, or on the basketball court, wherever. Yeah.
So how have you and how do you recommend that people stay motivated when they're feeling super overwhelmed or burnt out?
Well, the Stoics talk about, understanding, and the Serenity Prayer touches on this as well. I mean, understanding there are things you can control and there are things you can't. And there's a hell of a lot out there to be worked up about and be mad about. And the reality is a lot of that's just outside of your purview. You can't do anything about it, right?
Mhm.
You can't personally unmake Matt Gates attorney general, right? But you can focus today on growing your business and calling people you care about and checking in on them. You can focus on your health. You can focus on these things that keep you grounded. And when you do that, I talked about a foundation, like it's a lot easier to build on top of when you have that rock. And these are things I've advocated before. Walking. And the reason I advocate walking is because you can think and you can ask yourself very basic personal questions that life moves so quickly you never would have asked.
Mm.
What matters to me? Where do I want to go? What am I doing now? Of the things I'm doing now, what's bringing me there? What am I doing for no reason? When you feel like you are making progress and have momentum towards something meaningful, a lot of that other stuff seems less important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's purpose driven, and then the money doesn't really that. I guess the outcome is just living out with purpose. It's not tied to a specific result.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is next for you? What are your goals? Are you I'm a very money motivated person, as you could probably tell from getting to know me a bit. You seem to be more grounded in purpose and passion for what you do. Are you a goal setter, like a long-term goal setter, or what does your goal setting look like, short-term versus long-term?
Yeah, I definitely have. I mean, don't get me wrong, money's a beautiful thing and a necessary thing. And it's a tool that without it, you can't have impact and you can't
Mhm.
scale. So um, that's something that I'm actually working with like 3 coaches right now to
Mm.
better integrate. Right now, my entire team is uh, funded from AdSense and sponsorships and speaking engagements. When you have 2 million followers or a community of 2 million and you're not selling them anything, that's not a virtuous thing. That's a stupid thing,
Yeah,
right? So,
yeah.
it's something that I'm working on. I want to be very careful that one, I feel like it's needed, and two, it's done the right way because people want more. Obviously,
Yeah.
they want a next step, and um, yeah, it's fun though. Like I love solving for this stuff and really, bringing it to life.
Does I don't have I just launched my YouTube channel. I'm getting it up this week pretty much. But do I've heard mixed signals about, oh, you can make a ton of money from ads, like ads running on your YouTube content.
Mhm.
And then some people have said, I've heard way big ranges. Someone said some person made 600 million from YouTube ads, and someone said it's going to be a nice supplemental income, but it's not going to like make you rich. What have you seen, or do you have the knowledge? I mean, because you're in those masterminds and big YouTube communities and you have a large community.
Yeah.
Is it a really good, consistent income, or should it be more supplemental to something that you're selling?
I think it should be supplemental. I mean, so you can, for context, the channel is made as high as almost 70K in a month
Wow.
and as low as, 25. It's the up and down makes you feel like as a creator, there's just not sustainable. Like
Mhm.
if you're banking entirely on that, there's a level of certainty that I don't think is responsible. But it's definitely a valuable thing. The beauty of YouTube is that it's a window to the world. I mean, all my speaking engagements come from that. Opportunities come from that. Um, a lot of people mention networking, and I'm in some awesome networking groups here. And but when you have that level of exposure, the networking appears in your inbox, right? The world wants to be
Mhm.
a part of that. So like there's just so many really valuable things that come from it. I do still think the AdSense is yeah, it's a beautiful plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you have the following, and as long as you maintain it, that's pretty reliable within range
Yeah.
income.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's super cool. And then now, do you have sponsorships with other companies and stuff on YouTube and things like? Do you have a sponsorship or partnership with the Good Quote?
Yeah, working with them. And basically this was a little pivot that paid big dividends is like taking the audio from the YouTube channel and making a podcast with it.
Mm.
Um, Millions of downloads.
You weren't
And
doing that before, huh?
no. Yeah, which again, it's not like rocket science, right? It's like,
Yeah.
dude, come on. But it was just YouTube, right? I get like tunnel vision. I'm like, I'm
Mhm.
gonna be very good at YouTube, and then you step back and it's like, oh, okay, well, there's other things. Um, yeah, so sponsorships there and ads and a download on a podcast is much more lucrative than a view on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because you can sort of stumble upon a view on YouTube, whereas podcasts tend to be more direct. You have to be very
Mm.
specific. You got to be looking for it, click it, sit that. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just there's no algorithm feeding you
Mhm. Next video recommended.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I have heard people who have large podcast following said that people who are watching your podcast, like that's like a cult like following. They're the ones that go to your events. They're the ones that join your masterminds.
I
They're
think
the
that's
ones.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think as you start to develop a product for something that's been free motivational, other than your speeches, but I mean online content, what do you think? Is that going to be similar to like I just think of Jay Shetty who does life coaching and things like that? Or are you thinking about forming a community, or what type of product are you thinking would be aligned with you, or have you gotten that far
I
yet?
think the community thing would be fun. It's funny. I get asked to life coach quite a bit. I just don't see myself as that.
Mhm.
Like, or it doesn't light me up in the way that sort of the artistic side does. But I think a community would be fun, like-minded folks, going from 0 to 1 in whatever, their pursuit is, creating those lifelines, calls. You should see I got a whiteboard, my place just with thoughts all over. So it's like almost in the building phase.
Yeah.
But I think that's the way to go. And I did a retreat, like a one-off retreat with a friend, and we brought 23 guys up to Sedona, and we got this beautiful like ranch, and did hiking and cold plunging, and um, that was a life-changing experience putting that on. And
Mm.
so I've shelved it, but I haven't necessarily forgotten about it. So maybe integrating that into the community, I think, could be a cool thing.
I love that. I think that's a great idea. I want to go. Hopefully they're not men's only, but
I don't think this will be.
yeah.
I'd be in trouble. A lot of my audience is women.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
gotta keep it open.
I know a lot of women I mean need a lot of motivation, and I mean I
Yeah.
think we all do, but women in particular seek help and encouragement and motivation and strength, especially entrepreneur women who have to play more into their masculine roles and take that leadership role and don't necessarily have the traditional backing of a man to support them. So
For sure.
yeah.
Just hearing you talk about that, like some of the obstacles you face just being female, like some things that just I'd never have to deal with.
Mhm.
So yeah, the lifelines and the support for sure.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what is I guess to finish it off here, we have a few more minutes, but what is if you could go back in time and give advice to your younger self, what would that be?
I think I would emphasize the importance of moving, of just doing something, because the perfection myth held me down for a long time in a lot of different ways. It's like this video is not perfect, or there was a period where I was writing speeches for CEOs, and it'd be like, I'd spend 3 weeks on this, revising to the point where it's like the guy's not going to know the difference or care.
Mhm.
There's so much more value in releasing something, removing yourself from it, and focusing on the next one. Because what you find if you do that is time, obviously, goes by, and you look over your shoulder and you've created distance. And so that, to me, momentum is everything. Go. Repetition. Charlie Munger had a beautiful quote. He says, "You are your own experiment. Go out into the world and do things. Give life a chance to provide feedback." It's just too rigid for too long, thinking there had to be a right way, and am I doing this right? And no. Do what you think is right. Put it out in the world. Move.
Mhm.
That mindset is really valuable.
Yeah, I love that. I try to do that too. I used to be extremely camera shy. I would like cry if someone tried to take a picture of me or a video
Oh,
of
man.
me. And there's a whole period of my life where there's no pictures of me. I'm actually building out I'm rebranding my personal website and doing a storyline of my life of a picture of me from like just each year, not
cool.
each year, but yeah, so people can kind of really see the whole depth
far you've
of
come.
who I am. But yeah, there's a solid like 7 years where there wasn't one picture taken of me. And
You go from 12 to like 23 in the progression.
pretty much. I go from like 10 to 18.
Yeah.
There's like 8 years cut out, but it's pretty funny. But oh shoot, I forgot what were we just talking about. Tyler Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you meet him at the studio? Him and Clayton run the Rocket Studios.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. So I met
Oh.
him. He's actually, I just mentioned the retreat in Sedona. I ran it with him.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I
so
love
we're buddies.
him.
Yeah, he's a great dude. He is.
Gosh. But saw him a couple days ago and he was like, "You know what? I really encourage you to just come on one of your podcasts, like no makeup, no hair done, wear your yoga pants, like just be you,
Yeah,
you know?" And I was like, "Oh, shit." Like,
get the heart rate up a little
yeah,
bit.
gets my heart rate. And he's like, "Cause as you started doing cameras, then now cameras aren't a big deal. And then if you start doing more like that, like you don't always," he's like, "I used to be all concerned about everything being perfect and the mics being perfect and the videos being perfect and my hair being perfect and everything. And it doesn't have to be, it's not like be a slob all the time, but everything doesn't have to be so polished. It's just be authentic and take action and
Yeah,
just make steps towards the direction of where you want to go."
yeah. It's
Yeah.
So I'm writing a speech about this. I hope Clayton won't care. I don't think he will, but he said yesterday on the pod something that I thought was so profound, mirrored what you just said, um, where he was talking about like his dancing,
Mm.
and like he's known for a million different things. Dancing is not one of them, and I think people really resonate with this. And so he's like, well, this is a big part of me. I want to get it out into the world. And so films it, but is like nervous. Obviously, anyone would be like, this is new. What are people gonna say? Like he's sort of in the limelight, and sits on it for 40 minutes and then decides he's going to write up this big long description being vulnerable because he knows that'll get some positive engagement that will counteract what he thinks will be negative,
Mm.
right? And now he's like, now I'm at the point, where I don't do that. I just put it out. And he's like, that was so embarrassing having to hedge like that. And it's like, no, like you started. And at the point, at that time, if the only way you could find the courage, build yourself up, share that with the world was writing that long description to hedge, then that was 100%,
Mhm.
just go. Jim Quick said, sometimes when all you have is 40%, 40% is 100%, right?
Mhm.
Just do it. And you always end up looking back and being like, thank God it was sloppy and ugly and messy and embarrassing, but here I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, just let that fly. I bet in a year you'll be done with the makeup. You'll just be floating around in yoga pants,
I don't know about all that, but I mean, I'm either like, you don't want to see me at all, I'm a train wreck, or I'm well put together. There's not really much in
Zero or 60.
between. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's fun. But anyway, I like that. Take it. What's that quote? A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Mm.
And that's just it. You just take action, start putting things in motion and doing the right thing. That's like me. I never wanted to go to the gym because I was like, I didn't lose 15 pounds in one day of going there, but you just start going and you just show up and you do any amount. That's what my coach tells me. It's the principle of any amount, and stop. A lot of people will be like, oh, well, for instance, using the gym because we're talking about it. I did cold plunge for 2 minutes today, so tomorrow I'm going to do 3 minutes. The next day I'm going to do 4 minutes. The next day I'm going to do 5 minutes. Or I did an hour workout today. I lifted 50-pound weights, so I'm going to do 60 pounds tomorrow. And so many people put so much pressure on themselves to just be more, do better, that's what ultimately will lead to the burnout. And then it's all or nothing. Versus just, she talks about making the practice of just putting on your gym shoes every single day, no matter what. And if you decide to just take a walk outside for 2 minutes, or you decide to go work out at the gym for 6 hours, doesn't matter. It's completely up to you because your body changes every single day, but it's just the habit of movement. And that's been super helpful for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Any amount. But
yeah, someone said little hinges. I think W. Clement Stone swing big doors, and it's
Mhm.
like those little things like that. Having your shoes by the door, taking a walk, doing things that just keep you grounded, keep you focused, keep you rocking and rolling.
Yeah. Well, cool. It's been fun. Thanks so much for being here.
Hannah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been a
Of
blast.
course.